Sa mahigit 2 taon na pamumuno ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., hindi makakaila na kaliwat kanan na ang pagpapatayo ng mga infrastruktura sa ating bansa. Ilan dito ay pinapakinabangan na at mas higit pang pinapaganda. Sa ilalim ng Build Better More Infrastructure Program ng administrasyon, hangad dito na mapabuti ang kalidad ng transportasyon, kalusugan, enerhiya, komunikasyon at agrikultura na makatutulong sa pag-unlad ng ating bansa. Sa katatapos lamang na Build Better More Infrastructure Forum, continuing and expanding the golden age of infrastructure sa New Clark City, binigyan diin ang mahalagang infrastructure projects ng administrasyon. Ilang resource speakers mula sa iba't ibang ahensya ng ating gobyerno ang tumalakay sa mahalagang detalye ng mga programang pang-infrastruktura.
Today's event is the third leg of the Bagong Pilipinas Media Engagement and Workshop Series, a pioneering initiative of the Presidential Communications Office. This forum follows the successful culmination of the Food Security Cluster Communications Workshop in March and the National Security Cluster Communications Workshop in April 2024. We thank our friends from the Bases Conversion and Development Authority for welcoming us here to the world-class facility in New Clark City. To tell us more about the workshop and the agenda of our event, let us hear the welcome remarks of PCO Assistant Secretary for Television, Dale De Vera.
I welcome you to the third leg of the Presidential Communications Office's Bagong Pilipinas Media Engagement and Workshop Series this year. In March and in April, we previously discussed communication strategies and important points related to our country's food and national security. For the next days, we will be talking about another priority agenda under the 8-point socioeconomic agenda of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s administration, aimed towards continuing and expanding the golden age of infrastructure. In his first State of the Nation address, President Marcos Jr. identified infrastructure as the backbone of an economy, underscoring that its development is a high priority that will create jobs and bolster economic growth. The groundbreaking of over 100 infrastructure flagship projects, or IFPs, ranging from expressways, airports, bridges, railroads, digital infrastructure, and energy innovation, among many others, is evidence of this administration's commitment to giving Filipinos a better life. Several of these projects were carried over from the previous administration, but we will build better and more. As we approach the third year of President Marcos Jr. in office, let us have a closer look and assess the Bagong Pilipinas that we have been building in the past years. In this forum, we will be informed about the Build Better More program and cultivate effective ways of communicating our infrastructure flagship projects. We are joined by implementing government agencies to present significant updates on different projects, their effect on our economic agenda, financing techniques, and communication strategies, among others. Partner corporations will also be here to elaborate on the significance of infrastructure developments at the regional level, which has elevated tourism and economic activities in Luzon. At the end of this forum, we hope that you, our communications partners, will be equipped with functional tools to construct stories about our infrastructure programs for the benefit of the Filipino people. Due to our geographical location, providing services to our fellow Filipinos in rural areas has proven difficult. However, by utilizing this administration's enhanced infrastructure, we have been able to bridge gaps and opportunities, facilitate safer and faster travel, connect and empower communities by improving access to basic services, and stimulate social and economic transformation. But we will not stop here, as we will continue to build better and more for our Bagong Pilipinas. I wish you all a very productive forum in the coming days. Magandang hapon po.
We call on PCO Director Julius Leonen to introduce our first speaker.
Good afternoon to all participants. Our first resource speaker is a model for woman infrastructure in an organization dominated by male officials. She made history as the first female rank-and-file employee to reach the level of an undersecretary at the Department of Public Works and Highways, the government's engineering and construction arm. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome DPWH Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral.
As I present to you and share with you the Department of Public Works and Highways programs and initiatives under the Build Better More program of this administration. Allow me now to show everyone the impact of the high-standard highway network across the country, especially on travel time, via the roll-on, roll-off. With the implementation of the high-standard highway network, travel time from Lawag to Zamboanga will be slashed to just about 1 day and 7 hours once we complete the projects based on the master plan. Aside from the high-standard highway and expressways plan of DPWH, we are also prioritizing the improvement and upgrading of the country's major primary national highway. And this is, as I said, Maharlika Highway, or N1, having a total length of 3,082 kilometers approximately. N1, as we call it, route numbering, plays a very important role in disaster response and relief efforts. Think Yolanda. So if you recall Yolanda, I think that's in 2013. Ay, hindi nila naaalala. So, you know, when we wanted to deliver relief and provide relief operations in Region 8, we had a very difficult time crossing, you know, and getting to Region 8, simply because there are portions of Maharlika Highway that are not widened enough to at least even 4 lanes that time. Now we are widening Maharlika Highway to at least 4 to a maximum of 6 lanes. And one of the priority projects in this part of the Luzon is the recently signed contract for the extension of Tarlac, Pangasinan, La Union Expressway from Rosario, which is the terminal of the TPLEX that we finished sometime in 2019, if I recall. It will be extended all the way to San Juan, La Union. With the extension of TPLEX, we are now studying further extension all the way to Lawag City under our Ilocos High Standard Highway phases 2 and 3. In Metro Manila, where traffic is really a major challenge, of course, the OTR later on will also elaborate on what they have been doing to decongest or at least alleviate the congestion in Metro Manila. DPWH has 2 major projects aiming to decongest Metro Manila. And this is the ongoing operations of the Metro Manila Skyway Stage 3, which I believe all of you have already utilized, and the ongoing connector, which we call the NLEX-SLEX connector, eventually connecting it to the Skyway at Santa Mesa, making travel time in Metro Manila easier and faster. We are going to implement the Laguna Lakeshore Road Network Project Phase 1. Other projects in southern part of Luzon includes the Cavite-Laguna Expressway, which is now nearly completed and will be fully operational by next year, and the extension of South Luzon Expressway. The current South Luzon Expressway terminates in Santo Tomas. So we're now extending South Luzon Expressway by the Toll Road 4 further extending Santo Tomas all the way to Lucena, Quezon. We're not leaving other regions. Traffic congestion in Cebu City will be mitigated with the construction of the fourth bridge, the fourth Cebu-Mactan Bridge. And another priority project in Visayas is the 32-kilometer Panay-Guimaras-Negros Island Bridge. This 32-kilometer priority project will be funded through ODA, and we're building it in phases, Panay-Guimaras and Guimaras-Negros. And we're building a second bridge connecting the provinces of Samar Leyte.
Nakibahagi rin ang media sa naturang forum.
We are, because sourcing the funding has been really a challenge because I think government, Department of Finance specifically, is trying to get the best financing packages for this biggest project of DPWH. And finally, they were able to do so. And I think last week we just held the bidding for the first contract package of this project. And we'll start pretty soon, or hopefully last part of this year or early part of next year.
And sorry, if I could just ask one more question. Apart from, because you mentioned that it may start construction in Q4, maybe just a summary and so it's easier for us to write. What other projects are expected to start construction among those that you mentioned a while ago this year and by next year? Thank you.
Many projects are scheduled for bidding in the first part of next year. Okay, and many projects are also scheduled to be finished. We can provide you the updates, and I was able to share with the organizing committee the presentation, because I think many of the participants have already requested if they can be shared a copy of the presentation, and I said you can.
Susunod sa Build Better More Infrastructure Forum, flagship projects ng Department of Transportation ilalatag. At Public-Private Partnerships o PPP ididetalye sa pagbabalik ng Build Better More Infrastructure Forum. Nagbabalik ang Build Better More Infrastructure Forum. Tinalakay din ni DOTR USEC Timothy John Patan ang mahalagang infrastructure projects ng kagawaran.
Now in planning and project development, Undersecretary TJ intends to replicate the milestones achieved in the rail sector across DOTR's other sectors: aviation, maritime, and road. Recently, he spearheaded the award of the record-breaking NAIA PPP project, which was 3 decades and 6 administrations in the making. The fastest and largest successfully procured solicited PPP project in the Philippines in recent history. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome DOTR Undersecretary TJ Batan.
So what are the projects? Where are the projects? So I will not go through this one by one. There's one slide per sector. So this is our aviation and airport sector, followed by maritime, followed by rail, followed by road. But just one thing to note, next slide. So that's aviation, that's maritime, next is rail, and next is road. One thing that you may note is that within phase 1, there are 3 sub-phases. So this is our PPP pipeline. I'll mention some of this later on. Now, we'll share this with you, but there's only one thing that I want to highlight here. The one thing that I would highlight here is that we are developing our PPPs in a manner that the private sector will support. Because you can go out to market, and what I mean by go out to market, hindi palengke. What I mean is you can bid out a PPP project and end up with no one participating, right? Because if you're the private sector, you need to understand it has to be something that makes sense for you. It's not a charity. Right? The private sector is not a charity that's going to give us money and not be able to make a reasonable return. We've been partnering with the World Bank Group. So the IFC is helping us with a lot of projects. The Asian Development Bank, who advised us in NAIA, also is helping us on a lot of projects. So all of the PPPs that we have been rolling out, we are being professionally and competently advised to make sure that we bid them out, we get a similar response as NAIA. And what do I mean by that? In NAIA, we received 4 bids coming from, well, they're in different combinations. 10 of our conglomerates participated. 4 different countries were represented, and again, you'll see a slide on that later on. So NAIA is just the beginning, and all of these are rolling out in rapid succession in the next quarters to come. So this is another one of our diversification strategies. So I mentioned earlier that in 2022, 2/3 of our pipeline in DOTR was ODA finance. Within that 2/3, now, next slide. Now, let me just share with you some, that first part might have bored some of you, apologies for that, but sometimes it's important to understand and contextualize where the projects are so that we are able to better appreciate the immensity of the program that's being rolled out under this Build Better More initiative. So, NAIA PPP, you've also heard us say this before, 3 decades and 6 administrations in the making. If you would recall, former President Ramos tried to PPP at least one part of NAIA, and that was Terminal 3. So we all know what happened. Piatco case, arbitration, $500 million in payments. So that's that. We tried again, so that was done in the Ramos administration. It kind of tied us down 2 administrations down the road. So Aquino administration tried to do a solicited PPP. Duterte government considered 5 unsolicited proposals. So you might have heard that there were unsolicited proposals for NAIA in the previous admin. One thing that not a lot of people know is that there were actually 5 unsolicited proposals. 125 billion. To give you context, how much has the government invested in NAIA from 2010 to 2023? 2010 to 2023. How much has the government invested in NAIA? A total of 27 billion was budgeted. Actually, only 10 billion was disbursed. So for a period of 2010 to 2023, we've only disbursed 11 billion or roughly 2 billion per year in NAIA. So this is real. So we currently have 5 ongoing projects that are under construction. The 800 billion peso north-south commuter rail, which will reach here. There is a 17-kilometer new Clark City extension. So it's not yet part of the ongoing project, but it has always been part of the master plan. Project number 2, of course, we know about the Metro Manila Subway project. Project number 3 is the LRT1, Cavite Extension Project. Project 4 is MRT7. And Project 5 is the MRT3 Rehabilitation and Expansion Project. We have 5 projects under pre-construction, so that's phase 2. So these are investment-approved projects. MRT4, Line 2 West Extension, South Long Haul to Bicol, Subic-Clark Railway, Mindanao Rail. So this is 33 kilometers, 17 stations connecting all the way from Valenzuela down to NAIA Terminal 3 and down into FTI. Tunneling is ongoing. The Secretary had a recent interview. By the end of the year, we will have 6 tunnel boring machines already operational. So that's what those look like. The Metro Manila Subway project is actually physically integrated with the North-South commuter rail. What does that mean? That means that, let's say, for example, you live in North Avenue. Okay? You live in that area. You get on a subway train. Okay? That subway can actually continue. That same train can get you all the way to Calamba. Because at FTI, so FTI will be the last underground station, then it starts going up. and connecting into the north-south commuter rail. So the north-south commuter rail, 147 kilometers, 36 stations. This one getting operational by the end of the year. Our secretary visited this very recently, I think last month or 2 months ago. So our concessionaire has confirmed that this will be operational by the end of the year. Finally, in a few months, this will become operational. So if you live in the south, this is going to be a really, really helpful project. Next slide. 2005 is what our concessionaire has committed to at least partially operate MRT-7. So again, actual photos of construction. And next is MRT-3 rehabilitation and capacity expansion. So we continue to work on expanding the capacity. What are we looking forward to next? 4-car trains. So right now, you only see 3-car trains. We cannot expand it to 4 cars because there are some things that need to be done. And by next year, that will become possible. So this will connect 4 of our lines. It will connect LRT1, sorry, sobra. It will connect LRT1, it will connect MRT3, 4 nga, MRT7, and the subway. So 4 lines. Next is MRT4. So for those of you who live in the Tanay area, in the Ortigas extension area, so this is going to be ADB finance. So starting from EDSA all the way to Tanay. So the Divisoria of the East, if you know that place, that's where the terminal station of this will be. Next is, of course, our PNR South Long Haul. We continue to work on this, notwithstanding us having to find another financing partner. Next slide. Of course, we continue to work on Mindanao Rail Phase 1, Tagum Davao Digos, in parallel with Phase 3, up in the northern Mindanao. That's in Cagayan de Oro, in the Cagayan de Oro corridor. Next slide. Now going into our road transport, we all have seen Parañaque ITX. So our president, at his very first SONA back in July of 2022, gave a very simple directive to the DOTR, to our Secretary Jaime Bautista, and that is to go full speed ahead. And we're not just going full speed ahead, we're going full speed ahead with a lot of projects. Again, that's the build more part of Build Better More. And we're implementing all of those projects better. So build better more, so that we continue and we expand the trajectory towards a golden age of infrastructure.
Nabigyan din ng pagkakataon ang mga manonood ng forum na may parating ang kanilang mga katanungan.
Yusek, good afternoon. Val Gonzales po, DZRH. Ang inaantay na lang namin yung completion ng lahat ng mga binanggit po ninyo. Yung railways from south to north, north to south. Nakilera na ho lahat yun. Pero doon po sa diniscuss ninyo, parang nakalimutan ho ninyong yung cable car. Kasi last year, may isang proposal, yung isang French company na balak maglagay ho ng cable car sa Metro Manila para maibsan yung matinding traffic. Baka meron kayong update ho ron. Although proposal lang yun. Nung pumunta yung isang kumpanya sa Quezon City, din nagbigay ho sila ng kanilang intensyon na maring maglagay ho sa National Capital Region. Salamat, Yusek.
Sir, I have good news for you. We're actually ahead of a proposal. We have a completed pre-feasibility study for our first and pilot cable car project that will connect MRT4. So remember, MRT4 goes into Taytay. So at the MRT4 Taytay station along Manila East Road, we are working on a cable car project going up to Antipolo. So one of the best applications of a cable car technology is in mountainous terrain. And as part of the ADB's support for MRT4, they funded a pre-feasibility study for an urban cable car project connecting MRT4, again in Taytay, up to Antipolo. So
Sa pagbabalik ng Build Better More Infrastructure Forum, ibabahagi ang mga detalye patungkol sa Public-Private Partnerships o PPP. At muling nagbabalik ang Build Better More Infrastructure Forum. Sa puntong ito ay tatalakayin naman ni Public-Private Partnership o PPP Center Executive Director Maria Cynthia Hernandez ang kahalagahan ng PPP sa mga infrastructure projects.
Now we call on Director Julius for introduction of our next speaker.
Good afternoon po to everyone. Our speaker is the Undersecretary and Executive Director of the Public-Private Partnership Center since September 2022. In a career spanning 24 years, she has been involved in significant deals and transactions as an advisor. As the head of the lead Philippine government agency for public-private partnerships, she hopes to help drive economic growth through the development of inclusive and sustainable infrastructure projects. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Executive Director Maria Cynthia Hernandez.
The PPP Code incorporates the lessons learned and best practices from over 3 decades of documented experience implementing the Build, Operate, Transfer or BOT law and related legal frameworks, ensuring that the country's PPP projects are of high quality and able to mitigate risks during implementation. The updated thresholds for the approval of national PPP projects, so 15 billion and above, NEDA board. Below 15 billion, head of IEA or the board of the GOCC or the ICC as applicable. There's certain conditions. I don't want to go into it now, but if you want to know what the applicable conditions, we can provide you with the information. The PPP Code promotes local autonomy by having the local sanggunian approve the local PPP project. So if you're familiar with the BOT law, everything had to be approved by the NEDA board, and the project threshold was 300 million. So that really stifled PPPs, especially in LGUs, because they don't want to have to go up to the NEDA board to have projects approved. So there's a contract clearance that will be required. So the PPP Center for compliance with approved PTCs for national projects, the implementing agency's statutory council will have to sign off on the PPP contract, and the DOF will also have to sign off for national government undertakings and or availability payments. So for the statutory council sign off, we're actually also actively have a capacity development program for the government statutory councils, starting with the OGCC and the OSG, to make sure that they know what needs to be in PPP contracts and they know how what to look out for, so that when they clear a PPP contract, it means it has all of the mandatory provisions and the safeguards that we need to put in for the contracts to be effective. Remember, PPPs are long-term. 10 to 30 years is the time horizon that we're looking at. So we need to make sure that before these contracts are signed, they're good for us. So if a proposal is incomplete, we return it to the proponent. We tell them, well, you need to add these items. But they can actually go back without prejudice to, submitting it again if they've completed the required documents. So, and the PPP Center will also determine the appropriate approving body. So, and then if the proposal is complete, for example, an LGU in Pampanga, only then will we endorse it to the LGU or the implementing agency for decision. And then the decision is really, the IA has 10 calendar days to decide whether to reject or continue processing. So it may be that it's really totally a surprise to them. They don't think it's something that they need to do for their agencies. They can outright actually already reject the proposal. So when the PPP Center sends it to the implementing agency, it's not an endorsement. We're just telling them, this is complete. You can take a look at it if it works for your plans and programs. So if they continue processing it, they have 90 calendar days to do a detailed evaluation. After the detailed evaluation, they can enter into negotiation with the private party. They're allowed a minimum of 30 calendar days. So kung medyo goods na sila doon, they can actually complete the negotiation within 30 calendar days, or a maximum of 80 calendar days, or actually extendable for 150 calendar days upon agreement between the parties. So when the negotiation is concluded, only if there is a successful negotiation will the original proponent status or OPS be granted. So this is a reform from the previous BOT law where the OPS is granted in the first in time approach. So kung sino una nagbigay. But ikaw una nagbigay pero 12 pages lang yung proposal mo. So there's no, so sometimes people will submit just to be the first. But then it's really insufficient to base negotiations on. So magbaback and forth pa, mga documents, ganyan. So that actually what lengthens the approval and negotiation process for PPPs. So after the completeness, detailed evaluation, negotiation, tsaka palang original proponent status granted. So the projects that are currently under procurement, for the next slide, we have 2 water projects, the Bislig City Water Supply Project and the Negros Occidental Bulk Water Supply Project. Also in advanced stages under procurement are 2 health projects, the Dialysis Center PPP project for the Baguio General Hospital and Medical Center and the UPPGH Manila Cancer Center. So we anticipate that these projects will be awarded within the year. It's only July, so we think the awarding can be done within 2024. We also have some projects that are under comparative challenge. So these are the unsolicited proposals. So for the currently being under comparative challenge is the upgrade, expansion, operations, and maintenance of the Laguindingan Airport. So this is located in Cagayan de Oro. Other projects in advanced stages, and these are also mostly for the airports, the unsolicited proposals that are under negotiation. This is under approval. The new Bohol International Airport for the Bohol Panglao Airport, it's an upgrade, expansion, operations, and maintenance of the Bohol Panglao Airport. We also hope to have this project awarded by the end of the year. The NEDA board for the approval of this is scheduled next week. We also have 2 rail projects for approval. As also mentioned by Yusek TJ, we have the Metro Manila Subway O&M project and the North-South Commuter Railway O&M project. So this is what we call a hybrid PPP. So it's now being built under ODA financing. If I'm not mistaken, the subway is ADB and the NSCR is JICA. And the O&M would be turned over to a private proponent. So we hope for this to be approved this year as well. So, and the timing for the awarding the subway by first quarter of next year, and then North-South commuter rail by second quarter of next year. So it's better practice to actually have the O&M contractor on board while the project is being constructed. So there's the interface risk is minimized. So we hope that this would mean, better operations from day one of all of these expensive projects that we are borrowing from our ODA partners. We are also looking at several PPP projects that are under negotiation. So we have 3 regional airports and the Boracay Bridge project. So these are unsolicited proposals. If you would see as I mentioned earlier, there's a time frame for PPPs. So these projects are now in the negotiation phase, and given the very strict timetables, we hope that the negotiations will be concluded soon, and for these projects, hopefully within the third quarter, all of these negotiations will be concluded. So 3 airports and the Boracay Bridge project. So I guess if that's really a part of our intent, to make sure that unsolicited proposals are managed and have a clear timeline, have a clear criteria for accepting, then I guess we have been successful on that front. And that actually, next slide, concludes my presentation, but we're including the QR code that will direct you to the PPP Center website, because there's a lot of information there. I can't keep everything on top of my head. So usually if I get asked, what's happening to this project, I'll just say, can you check the PPP Center website, because we do update this on a weekly basis. So with that, thank you all so much, and I'm looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
Muli ring tinugunan ng resource persons ang mga tanong mula sa media.
Meron ho ba kayong intervention or assistance pagdating sa level ng LGU to come up with the cost benefit and other financial aspect ng isang PPP na regardless of amount na ipoprocess po at the local level?
Yes, we do have assistance to LGU. So when we endorse unsolicited proposals to them, we offer to assist them in processing the PPP projects. And so far, I think most of the LGUs that have unsolicited proposals are calling on us to assist them in evaluating these, especially also negotiation, because negotiation comes first, diba, before approval.
Yes, po.
So I think so far it's been working naman. LGUs have been very proactive in consulting us about the process.
Abangan sa pagpapatuloy ng programa. Iba pang detalye mula sa iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno at mga update sa infrastructure program at talakayin. Dito lang yan sa Build Better More Infrastructure Forum sa New Clark City, Tarlac.